He talks about the tribulation.
He does talk about
the great tribulation.
Yes.
And he said they would see the tribulation.
And Christians will see the tribulation.
He was talking to his disciples.
Exactly, and am I not a disciple?
Bob, don't do that. He's talking to his actual disciples,
He's
Bob.
talking to his actual
12
disciples.
of them, not you, Bob.
Yes,
he wasn't talking to you in 2018, mate.
Yeah, some Jews came to be convinced, despite all the cultural narratives to the opposite, that a singular person rose from the dead.
Okay, so and
we have to seriously investigate why.
And the evidence for that is written down here and was espoused by the people before it was even written down here. Is what you're saying?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Generally, people that follow this stuff, they believe what is written down in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, generally.
Yeah.
So this is how I'm going to show how things in this book don't necessarily have to make sense.
Right.
If you could go to Matthew 24 for me.
Matthew 24?
In this book. And I'll pull it up on mine.
Yeah.
You got to get with technology, Bob.
No, mate. There's something nice about having a book in your hand.
Right.
Right.
So... let's see if we're reading from the same. It's in Matthew 24, right?
Yeah, Matthew 24.
Okay, and it says, and Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and disciples came unto him.
Yeah.
And for him, for shew him to the buildings of the temple, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so disciples have come unto Jesus, yeah?
Yep.
And Jesus said unto them, so Jesus' words are now in red.
Yeah.
Do not, you not see these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be...
one stone left upon another, which will not be...
So this is on the Mount of Olives, right?
Yeah.
So if we go down,
okay,
they've actually asked, they've come unto Jesus, right?
Okay.
In this verse. And they've said, in number 3...
Sorry, where does it say it's on the Mount of Olives? Oh, right.
No,
as 3, he was sitting. So it's moved.
On the Mount of Olives,
the narrative has moved forward, yeah.
Right, and he says here.
Yeah, on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately saying, tell us, when will these things happen, and what will be the sign of your coming, and of the end of the age? Yeah.
So that's the question they asked him.
Yeah.
So during this verse, Jesus says a lot of things.
He does.
He says a lot of things.
He does.
And at the end of it...
Which incidentally declares his divinity, just so you know.
And at the end of it, what does he say?
At the very end? Yeah,
he says, he talks about what will happen, because I said, how will we know when the war's going to, or when the age is going to end?
Yeah.
He said, rumors of wars, pestilence, all this kind of stuff, the sign of the coming man in the clouds, all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
And he says, he ends with, verily I say unto you.
34.
This generation shall not pass until these things be fulfilled.
Agreed.
Who's he speaking to?
Right, he's speaking to the disciples.
Who's he speaking to?
Right, he's speaking to the disciples.
That their generation is going to see all of that stuff.
Yes.
Has that generation seen all that stuff?
Right. Do you know the end of the age that it is talking about is the end of the old covenant age.
You see what he says in the King James? He says the end of the world.
It's talking
that says the end of the world.
And in Greek, world is not necessarily like the end of the terran, the earth.
Okay.
World can be the end of a system, because in English, to translate the Greek into English, you can also translate it.
So are you saying that those disciples saw the end of a system?
Yes.
So they saw the wars, the pestilence, the rumors of wars?
Yes.
So they saw him coming in the clouds?
Right. So
they saw him do that?
Let me just address this point.
That means Jesus has already come.
May I finish? The apocalyptic vision, the apocalyptic vision that Christ is talking about, speaks about things that are going to happen into the future and things that are going to happen at the time of the disciples. So the system that is coming to an end, that Christ describes in these graphic terms, is the end of the Old Testament, the end of the Old Covenant system.
He talks about the tribulation.
He does talk about
the great tribulation.
Yes.
And he said they would see the tribulation.
And Christians will see the tribulation.
He was talking to his disciples.
Exactly, and am I not a disciple?
Who's he speaking to?
Right, he's speaking to the disciples.
Bob, don't do that. He's talking to his actual disciples,
He's
Bob.
talking to his actual
12
disciples.
of them, not you, Bob.
Yes,
he wasn't talking to you in 2018, mate.
Yeah, he
was talking to his people 2,000 years ago.
The reason, brother, why these words have been captured is because he is speaking to me in 2018.
Oh. Who's he speaking to?
Right, he's speaking to the disciples.
Come on, Bob.
I am reading them now. I listen to them now.
His disciples came to him. If
I
come
am a
to you,
disciple.
If I came to you, Bob, and I said,
I
Bob,
am a disciple.
how are we going to know the end of the world, mate? Tell us.
Can I finish?
Here you go, Sarah.
Can I finish?
Hang on. You're going to see this, and this. And that's what's going to happen when you see the end of the world.
What?
And hang on, you were speaking to me. You weren't speaking to my children 2018 years later than you were speaking to me, were
What
you?
happened to the Jewish people in 70 AD?
Is this relevant to the conversation?
Yes, I promise you.
How?
Okay, what happened?
No, you tell me, because you're bringing a whole new argument now.
Do you know what happened?
No, you tell me.
Okay, in 70 AD, because of a Jewish revolt that was trying to replicate what the Maccabees did against the Greek empires, or the remnants of Alexandrian Empire, there was a revolt against the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire, in response to this revolt, utterly destroyed the Jewish nation, including the destruction of the temple. Christ was talking about the destruction of the temple in apocalyptic terms, because it is literally the end of the Jewish system. The Jewish system ended there and then, because when the temple is destroyed, the Levitical priesthood ends, the system of sacrifice ends, the old covenant ceases to function properly.
Bob, Jesus was talking to his disciples. He was not talking about any Jewish people and any kind of anything that you just said. Jesus was specific talking to his disciples. If all of these people come up on me right here, right now, and ask me a specific question, Sarah, when's the world going to end? And I say, hey guys, it's going to get a bit crazy. This is going to happen, that's going to happen, and you guys are going to see all of that.
What does he say?
And then you're going to see me come out the clouds, and I'm going to go.
What does he say? He says, this generation shall not pass away until these things
This generation, whose generation is that?
The concept of generation, also
come on,
speaks...
bro.
I am coming. It speaks of epochs, it speaks of ages. There was the generation of Abraham, there was the generation of Moses, there was the generation of Jesus.
So what generation was he talking about?
So he's talking
to his disciples.
He's talking about this generation, the generation...
In 2018?
This generation, the generation of grace.
This generation shall not pass until these things be fulfilled.
Agreed.
Who's he speaking to?
Right, he's speaking to the disciples, which are those who live in the time of grace from Christ's first coming to Christ's second coming.
You're telling me that Christ was talking about the generation in 2018, even though his disciples came to him 2,000 years
and the year
and
in 2000, and the year 10,000, and the year 500.
Can I interject? Does it matter either way?
Come on, bro.
Right, hold on. But let me.
It doesn't make sense. I'm just saying it doesn't make sense. Sorry.
Right.
I'm just saying. Let me. Okay. And I'll finish. It doesn't make sense because specifically, as I said, reading this book, there are things that don't make sense in this book. So you taking everything from this book for me doesn't make any sense. And I'm showing you why. Because his disciples specifically came to him and asked him a very specific question, and he described exactly what was going to happen in their generation. And he specifically said, you will see the sign of the coming of man in the clouds, and I shall come back and I shall take you. So if that generation is dead, that means Jesus has already come out of the clouds, taken the disciples, and he's gone. So I don't know what you're waiting for.
So let me.
I don't know what you're waiting for.
I'm waiting for Christ to come on the clouds.
He ain't coming. He's already come, bro.
No, he hasn't.
You're waiting on some other stuff.
So hold on, 1 second.
He told his disciples when he was going to come.
1 second. Let's just deal with something. Let us assume that you're right.
Yes, let's do that.
Let us assume,
let's do that.
for the sake of argument, to move the argument forward, let us assume that there are some things in the New Testament that don't make sense and can't be reconciled. All right? For the sake of this argument to move it forward, I will give it to you. Okay? Now, hold on 1 second.
I'm going to take it.
Sarah, you take it. You take it. So, Sarah, here's the thing, bro. Right? Firstly, the belief in the resurrection is not dependent upon the Gospels. The belief in the resurrection is what gave birth to the Gospels, so it does not knock my argument that the resurrection is a historical reality to knock the Gospels.
Because you're waiting on Jesus.
Sarah, would you agree with me? Sarah, would you agree with me? Would you agree with me that belief in the resurrection predates the Gospels?
Yes.
Would you agree with me me that belief in the resurrection predates Paul's letters.
Yes.
Right. So therefore, it in no way knocks the central premise of my argument that Christ rose from the dead and people were witnesses to that fact, because you have managed to find, and I'm giving it to you for the sake of the argument,
I'm taking it.
You're taking it, right? Let's just say you found a discrepancy in the text.
Yeah.
My belief is based upon something that predates the text, so my belief in the resurrection stands. You haven't knocked it at all.
No, your belief in the resurrection stands. However, you're still waiting on Christ to return.
Right.
And I'm saying you can believe in the resurrection. However, Christ's return has already happened according to the actual text.
What is the historical claim, the central claim of the Christian faith?
Like you said, I said Jesus Christ died for your sins, and you said the central
claim of the Christian faith
is that a man died and rose from the dead.
Yes,
that's the central.
So the central claim of the Christian faith.
But he ain't coming back though.
Now, here's the thing.
He's not coming
here's
back.
the thing.
He's already come.
Here's the thing. If
Matthew 24, read it.
Sister,
he's already come. Stop waiting on him.
If you just let us finish, and then we'll take questions and things.
All three religions believe that two of them believe Christ is coming back, and the Jews believe that the Messiah, the second coming, is to happen, and this is the period of the Jubilee. So in all sects, they believe that he's coming.
However,
they never read Matthew 24 to see that he's actually not coming back.
We as Christians don't need to validate our faith by appealing to Islam,
just read it.
Which is a counterfactual, counter-historical religion.
Just read it, seriously. Just read it.
I've read it.
So, Sarah, I know you've got to go soon.
Yeah, I've got to go on that too.
So the point that I would leave you with, is this. If a man 2,000 years ago truly rose from the dead, then this has to change everything about what you believe about reality, about the way that you live, and about what you believe. It has got to change the course of your life, and it has to affect your heart and the temperament of your mind. Because if that man rose from the dead, then all the claims that he makes about himself to be God are validated.
Okay.
All the claims that he makes about himself to be the Messiah are validated. All the claims that he makes about himself as coming back into the future on the clouds of glory with the angels are validated.
No. They're validated according to the time of his disciples, the generation of his disciples.
Depending on how you want to interpret the words world, and depending on how you want to interpret the words generation.
Even though
I dispute your use of those terms.
Even though it was a private conversation between him and his disciples, and he told them specifically, and not you, Bob the Builder, in 2018, you still think he's speaking to you, and that is amazing to me that you think he's speaking to you when it was a private conversation amongst him and his disciples. That is what's amazing to me.
Because the apostles, under the guidance of the Holy Spirit, felt it such that this story needed to continue. This is part of the charisma of the church, that Christ has died, Christ is risen, Christ will come again. That is the charisma.
Christ has died, Christ is risen.
The charisma predates any letter. That Christ has died, Christ is risen, Christ will come again. That charisma predates any gospel, it predates any letter. It was believed by the church before it was ever written down, and nothing you have said has affected that belief or the reasons to believe in it.
I think it has affected it.
Well, I will let people make their own mind up, and you obviously have to make your mind up.
Rob, it's been good.
Look after yourself, Sarah. Until next time.
Peace, family, peace.